Yes.
Sherry, God has done a number of things in your life, even just since we met in 2000, was it 2005 or 2006? Yeah. 2005. But things have been happening in sort of like rapid succession. In fact, God enabled you recently to write a book. And we can show it on the screen as well. The Leader Who Followed. It's a study on the life of Peter. And this just came out in 2010. So let's talk about this and how God is using you and using this book.
Well, it's funny because I didn't expect to ever write. That's not something that I considered part of my future. And when God burdened that in my heart, I was just incredibly surprised at the amount of information that He opened up to me when I was considering it. But you know, the book just came about, and it wasn't even like I was trying to do it. It just happened.
Sherry, why a book on Peter? You're a woman. Why not a book on Esther or Ruth or Mary or one of the other biblical characters that are women?
I love Peter. He is a very colorful personality, and one of which many of his attempts were disastrous and obviously filled with self. But I just love the fact that God used him in such a mighty way, how he said, Peter, I give you the kingdom, the keys of the kingdom. And then, of course, Peter the next day says, you can't do this, Jesus. You can't die. And Jesus had to say, get behind me. Listen to me. This is a spiritual thing. And so Peter was the one who witnessed to the Jews, the Samaritans, and the Greeks, which the Gentiles, that's us, the world. He opened salvation to all the world. That was his job. And God, you know, gave him carte blanche. Go, tell the world. So,
did this start more as a devotional, just a study for you? How did the book actually get started? Books don't just come about. There's a lot of work, many, many hours.
It felt like it just came about. No, I was teaching on the prayer of Jabez.
Teaching in your church, and
yes,
this is in Boca Raton,
the women's
Florida.
Ministry. And I did a lecture. I added a lecture, and I wanted to bring personality to the life of Jabez because there's only a few verses that talk about him. So I took each phrase and developed it with a personality in God's Word, and the first particular one was Peter, and I used the verses in Acts where it talks about James was just murdered and Peter is in prison, and the people are fearing for his life and praying for his release, and he's released, and they're surprised. And so that particular story is actually in the study, and I even make mention to that's the one lesson that brought me to looking into Peter a little bit more. And God, just one thing after another, it kind of sparked my interest. I opened up my glossary in the back of the Bible and saw how many references were to Peter, and I thought, interesting. I set it aside for a while, and God just kept saying, go back to that. Start doing something with it. And so I started writing things down. I ended up, within maybe a week's time, mapping out the whole Bible study itself with each lesson and the verses that would go with it. And I just sat back and I thought, God's doing something here. And so I prayed about it. I set it aside. It was kind of a battle for a while for me to be obedient to writing it. But once I willingly yielded to spending the time to write it, it just came together.
Did you ever see yourself as a writer?
No. That's the funny part. I was not a good student in English. That's not one of my choices, let's put it this way. And reading was not one of my favorite things either. So it's just, you know, how the foolish things confound the wise. It's baffling to me that God would put me in a position to write that.
God takes ordinary people and enables them by His grace and power to do extraordinary things.
It's almost humorous.
It is.
When I think
you stand
about
back
it.
And you say, I can't believe this happened.
Yeah.
This is not your book, it's His book, right?
Yep, it is.
He's the one that guided your steps. Did you teach these lessons then to the women? Or?
Yes. Before it was published, I had put together a 3-ring binder, very unprofessional looking, and black and white, and handed it to the women of the church, and we went through it I had really good comments, and they just loved the material, and they encouraged me to get it published. So at that point, there was nothing in the making for publishing, and then my husband took it upon himself to send it to a publisher, and that's kind of how the thing started.
Wow. So your husband was...
So I didn't even do it. It was him.
Was behind this as well to get it published.
Yes.
How is God using this book now? It's just been out about a year, I guess, right?
Yep.
So how is God using it, and what are you seeing? What kind of fruit in your life and in your teaching ministry, but how is God using it?
Well, I would say, first of all, that it's challenged me to live by what I wrote. I mean, once you put something on paper or even recorded, when you say it, you're responsible for that. And so one of the things that I've strived to do, though, as I go here or there, is to give books to people that I believe need one. So in ministry, I don't always think of this as it's not a business to me, it's a ministry. And so my desire for that book especially is to influence the people's lives, to make them live, to teach through that material that our lives can be very influential, and we have a choice. Do we want to lead people? We're leaders no matter how you look at it. We have children. Everybody who is a parent is a leader because the children follow their example. So as a leader, no matter what you lead, you're influencing them. And you could lead them down the right path, or you could lead them down the wrong path. And so when we're in God's Word and studying God's Word, especially through the experiences you see in Peter's life, he influenced people tremendously in a godly way. And then there were moments where even Paul had to confront him and say, that was wrong for you to do that in front of those people, so that everybody knew it was the wrong choice. So, we are leaders.
Sherry, the way you set the book up, there are eight weeks, so it's like a daily study, and there are 5 days, so it's 5 days a week for an 8-week study. And what was your thought behind that?
Well, I guess it was through personal application of my own quiet time with other studies. And there's many studies out there formatted in that manner, where you're doing Monday through Friday or whatever days you choose to do the study, and then you meet and you go over those 5 days of lessons, and then there's usually a video to go along with it, but I'm the video. I'm the teacher, so.
When our children were growing up, we would have family devotions with them, but we did not have family devotions on Sunday because I thought it was an overload. And sometimes even on Wednesdays, because they were going out to their youth groups and everything, sometimes we'd talk about what they learned and whatever, but sometimes I think with children too, you have to be just careful. And I found that little anachronism years ago, KISS, keep it short and simple.
Right.
So with children, you just give them little bites, because sometimes we see a book, we pick it up, we say, oh my goodness, 100, 300, 200 pages, I can't get through that. But if you see it, a bite a day,
that's right.
And that's the way you've put this book together. And I hope there will be many people that will be interested. A leader who followed a study on the life of Peter. This is a very interesting book, and I hope that you'll consider this if you're interested in doing some teaching on the life of Peter. Whether you're a man or a woman or a young person, whoever you may be, could be a wonderful daily devotional.